Hello, this is Peters Principals. I'm Jim Peters, and this is Dr. Salakafali, who is on the superintendent session. And nice to see you again, Doctor.
Thank you. Same here.
I enjoy these television shows, and I just want to know, how is being the superintendent worked out for you? Do you enjoy your job?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Always enjoyed it. Before here and even more here, because I like being in Lowell. I enjoyed it tremendously.
What are your strongest points as superintendent, do you think?
Well, I think it's the, so far we connected really well with the school leaders, and we work really well with them. And I think some of my personal strongest point would be that
what would you think?
I guess it's a good balance mixed with both business experience as well as experience in education.
Okay, I had both business experience and experience in education too, so yeah, I kind of know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's usually kind of a good mix, right, to work. So it worked out well for me. Mm-hmm. I find myself as well, comfortable in business circles as comfortable as I am in educational circles. Okay.
I would like to talk about the assistant superintendent. It's not an assistant superintendent position yet. Is there going to be an assistant superintendent position for human resources, or is that something that's gone by the wayside?
I don't know yet. I know the past they've had that position as an assistant superintendent. Mm-hmm. And was eliminated then in favor of a different model where I think they changed it to something different. It's not uncommon, in my opinion, that large districts such as Lowell would have an assistant superintendent level for HR. We
once had a deputy superintendent level on that
as well.
Particular job. That's why I'm asking.
It's the reason is because really why you have it is because we are definitely one of the largest employers in the area, right. And obviously, it's a very, very serious position. It's a very you need high responsibilities involved in that the position, and so we might go back to that model at this point. I see it to be really a moot point because the director of HR, I had restructured it somewhere in between, mm-hmm. where the director of HR reports directly to the superintendent. So, whereas before, after they did the restructuring, when they eliminated the position of assistant superintendent here of HR, they had the position of HR report to the deputy superintendent in charge of finance. In my case, as soon as I arrived, I made that position report to the superintendent because I felt very strongly that HR should be separated from finance. These are two very, very powerful positions. Mm-hmm. The recruitment, as well as the payroll. These right. are very important, and you always, in my opinion, should be separated. These powers.
Well, so you have separated the finance and the
HR
recruitment. Yes. The HR. HR stands for human resources.
Yeah. So in essence, it's not called assistant superintendent, but the person is really at the level of the assistant superintendent currently. Currently, the director of HR is part of my cabinet, mm-hmm. of the executive team, and she within the executive team, the director of HR has equal voice with the assistant superintendent.
Okay, that's good to know. I was wondering about that because I know that Helen Flanagan was deputy superintendent and she was in charge of HR, and she reported directly to the superintendent, obviously, because she was the deputy. Do you have a deputy superintendent?
Currently, yes, we do have a deputy. The deputy is who was the assistant superintendent for student services. That's Janine Durkin. Okay. She's currently the deputy. Okay. Yeah, the deputy is in Lowell. It's not necessarily a separate position, just deputy. We're large, but not large enough. such as Boston, where they're very large, so they have a separate position of deputy. In our case, is one of our assistants becomes a deputy.
Right.
And in our case, the deputy's role really kicks in only when the superintendent is not able to be there for that function or whatever. Could be because you're sick, could be because you're on vacation, or could be sometimes in a regular day where we have separate functions and I just can't attend all of them, so the deputy will usually attend on behalf of the superintendent,
Okay,
attend to matters.
Strangely enough, I remember that Janine and I started at the same time, in the same group.
Okay.
She seems like a very good pick to me.
She's a very efficient person.
Very efficient person.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about tracking. It's not new to Lowell. It dates back as far as 1800s, but right now the high school has two tracks. One is college, one is honors, right?
Yeah.
And they had business level tracks for people who didn't think they were going to college. Do we envision business level tracks in the future, or?
I think that kind of went by with the creation of those Vogue schools at the time. If you remember, before the regional vocational schools, most high schools would have those kind of tracks for students who were not necessarily interested in going the college route. Our mission right now, our objective is that every kid that comes to our high school, we want to do our best that they are ready for college or for the workforce. But college is definitely what we aim for.
Okay, college is a
2-year college is fine.
It's a worthy goal.
It's the goal that we because even the labor force today, they want to have students that are prepared. Even if so we do have students who we prepare them for college. They could apply for college, but they voluntarily select to go to the workforce, and that's okay. But at least they're better prepared.
They're prepared for college. You expect them to have certain basic
skills. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Okay. Okay. We talked about this a little bit last month, but I wanted to ask you again. The whole school system tested and was at the 263rd level in testing. And what do we do to get better and test higher in the future?
Well, we always work harder. We try to work harder. Currently, when you look at the testing, we have over close to 400 districts that are ranked in Massachusetts. You have to always be careful how you look at those testings, because when you're testing, say in math, you're looking at math or ELA or overall, we're looking here strictly academics, and you're tested against everyone, regardless and irrespective of their resources or what they have as additional resources or schools or whatever. So obviously you have to take that with a grain of salt, and you have to be careful how do you interpret those results. The accountability system that the state uses tends to get a little bit more realistic about that. They tend to group you by various groups of schools that they believe are more of the same. And even then, so it's really...
We would be looked at as a Brockton or...
Yeah, even then it's still not very adequate, but it's still a little bit better. And I think what we have to look at is we have to look at more at what we are. I mean, we are, as you remember, we mentioned it several times, this is the first time ever that we have a third of our schools are in level 1, a third of our schools are in level 2, which is really the same. Level 1 and level 2 are exactly the same, except the only differentiating factor is the growth factor by how much happened in 1 year. But in terms of total, grade is really level 1 and level 2 are exactly the same.
Okay.
So this is the first time where 2/3 of our schools in Lowell are within the top category, the category considered performing well enough. We only have 1/3 in level 3, And those 130 in level 3, we only have about 2 schools that are schools that need attention. The others are just, they're level 3, but if you look at the previous 2-3 years, every year they've been improving and improving and improving and improving. It's just a matter of time if they continue on this trend. It's just a matter of time that they become a level 1 or level 2.
Right.
But there are 2 schools that are a little bit stagnating, and we're working with them very closely.
Okay.
So that's what you really need to look at overall. And in terms of more closely, if you want to have a more in-depth close, you really have to start looking at student growth factor. It doesn't really, in our world, it's great to be, say, in the top 10 in math or in the ELA, but we feel that it is even more satisfying and better if you are not in the top 10 and you see you're in the 30th percentile. I mean, you know, and what we really want to see is, are you growing? Mm-hmm. Do you show some promise? Okay. Of proficiency? So are you growing? And our student growth is where we want to look at, and we're doing pretty well. Okay. We're continuing to grow.
So 263rd is just a number?
It's just a number. I mean, I'd love for us to be better, but let's be realistic. We don't have the resources of some of these other school districts.
Okay. The school district that did the best in the area was Chelmsford, as I recall.
Well, no, I think we have even better results in Littleton and Westford. Yeah, Littleton did really well too.
Littleton did?
Yeah, Littleton did really well, and you know, they all, you know, I think all the districts in the area are doing fairly well as compared to other parts of the state. Yeah. Okay,
well, Paul Georges told me that we should compare ourselves to similar schools, which is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We've had various levels of success with certain middle schools, and middle schools have their own unique problems. Maturing children.
Nationwide.
Yeah, everybody has a unique problem with middle school, I think. But how do you make sure that you, in your position, are alleviating problems in your approach to difficult schools?
Well, we don't have difficult schools per se.
Well,
I mean, we have kids with different needs. Yeah, different children with different needs, and as you said, the middle schools have their own needs, as the elementary schools have their own needs, and so forth. I think what you do is I know the principals pay very close attention to all children. This past week, I visited 2 middle schools, and you know, the amount of attention that the adults pay to the students is really remarkable. I think they do real good work, and with that, and you can see it. It all has to do, the performance of the children is very much highly proportional to the amount of attention and the amount of engagement. I think the more engaged these kids are, and the better delivery they have. So we want to make sure to identify very early any kind of challenges we might have and address them really earlier on.
Okay. Let me just ask you this question. The charter schools, do they have the capacity to let a student go and you have to pick the student up in the public schools, or?
We're a public school. We can't turn away any child. If a child goes to private school, charter school, religious school, that doesn't really matter what school they go to. If they should leave that school at any point in time, they have every right, any point in time in the year, they will be admitted in the school where they reside. So yeah, we take everybody. Do we have children who come to us after the school starts from others? All the time. Mm-hmm. Tons of them will come to us from charter school, private school, vocational school. It's not uncommon. The school starts at ends of the August, early September in swing. Don't be surprised by that we are still registering students all the way to the end of October, early November.
Okay. I wrote in my notes here that Dr. Kafawi is a demanding man who expects a lot from his department managers. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, yeah. I think they know. You know, we work well though. I mean, we ask a lot, but we don't. We're not bureaucrats. We don't. I don't ask them to be busy bees. I ask them to be more strategic. And I think by now we know how to work with each other.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, can you imagine yourself in any other school system, or is this one pretty good for you?
This is perfect. This is
perfect
perfect for me. No, but that's also for the school committee to decide that, not just for
Well,
me. As far as I'm concerned, this is a very good school system. I think it's just the right mix for who I am and what I want to do. That's for the community and their school committee to decide whether I fit in or not.
Okay. I'd just like to make this point. This show is Peter's Principles, which are my principles. Okay, it's an opinion show, and it's not a news show. So I frequently give my opinions on the what's going on. I'd like to tell you a little bit about something that I learned about my brother-in-law when he was still alive. And my brother-in-law was Paul Songus, and one of the things that Nikki said about him was that he thought that Lowell was the center of the universe. Do you find Lowell to be the center of the universe yet, or are you still on?
Well, when you come in here, working here, it becomes your center of the universe. I think if it doesn't, then something is lopsided. I think that statement should be valid in everywhere. I think if you are the superintendent of Somerville, Somerville has got to become the center of your universe. So absolutely agree with him, because, and not to undermine any other position in the city.
No,
I think they're all very important, whether you're a chief of police or fire chief or a city manager. They're all very important. But you got to remember, when you're a superintendent of a school system where you have nearly 15,000 children put at your charge by their family, and you're responsible for their safety, their learning, their future, you've got to make that the center of your universe.
Yes,
there's no choice. If you don't, then I think you might want to reconsider where you want to be.
Okay. The area of vocational training, is there any word on the Department of Education allowing things like work-related positions in the schools?
Again, when at the time when the vocational schools were created and we started seeing them formed, there was an agreement. There was between schools and vocational schools and Department of Education that comprehensive districts, which what we are now referred to as comprehensive districts, we don't really do vocational. Some kept some programs that were grandfathered in. We do have that. For instance, the culinary art, we still have that within our high school. But by and large, most of the programs were shifted to the vocational school.
Right.
If we feel that there's a need that we have to offer a program, we usually have to work with the vocational school, and we need to seek their most cases, their alignment with us, their permission, if you wish, and the state has to authorize it. And the state is not going to authorize it if it is offered in your vocational school, or they have the ability to offer it.
Okay, I'm talking specifically about a shop class.
Yeah, a shop class or anything like that. That's unless you have it grandfathered in, such as our culinary art program.
Right.
You're generally not going to be able to offer such a class and without the right permits and authorizations from the state, which usually are given after everything is studied carefully with the local vocational school. Why aren't they offering it? Because if they offer it, you probably won't never get the authorization for it. But if they're not offering, or they don't have any any class that you want to do, then you might be considered, but they will still have to see why can it be offered, can it not be offered in the vocational school first.
Okay, I have a question about STEM. That's at the Edith Norris Rogers School, right?
Yes, that's the academy.
And could you talk a little bit about STEM for the audience? Because
absolutely.
It's still kind of a unique program, and I don't think everybody's used to it.
It is. I think the STEM program is in our elementary schools. It's what we're doing is it is an elementary school like any elementary school, but on top of that is a focus on STEM, meaning that they will be more exposed to the technology side, to the engineering side, to the scientific side. We made sure they have the right equipment to do so. The school is now goes all the way to 5th grade, and next year it's going to go. Every year it adds 1 grade, and then next year we're going to go to 6th grade STEM, and then 7th, and then 8th, and then they go into the high school. Parallel to that, in the high school, they currently have several pathways, and one of them is STEM and engineering and so forth within the school. But I think even then, we are working on a program to create a real, more focused STEM program that would start at 9th grade, not just 10th grade, because your typical pathways in the high school start at 10th grade. I don't think it's a good idea to lose that 9th grade when you're talking about these area of engineering, technology, whatever, because 1 year is a long time in children's age, and you don't want to lose that connection. So as we're building the 6, 7, 8, we're also going to be building the 9th grade. So eventually, in the 3 years time, it'll be seamless, that we will have a continued program from K through 12.
You'll have a continued curriculum.
Continued curriculum, well focused on STEM. And it's not to be misunderstood. I mean, we're not trying to be exclusive and say only certain kid can be, and no, not that at all. Certain kids are going to be leaning and rotating and gravitate more around the STEM, the technology and engineering, and they probably would like to do that more. Some others may want some aspects of it, but they might not want to have the whole thing. So
it's not an academy type of thing.
Well, it will be, but it will be in the sense that it's an open as well to everybody. Let me give you an example. It works a lot like the International Baccalaureate type of program. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it is that you're going to have a curriculum, and say you come into the 9th grade now, you can go and become a STEM student, and that's fine. Then you have a certain curriculum to follow, and if you fulfill all the requirements of your study plan, if you wish, then you will graduate with that distinction. But say you're really not interested in doing the whole thing, but there's an aspect, some courses in STEM that you are interested in, some engineering course, introduction to engineering course that say you really want to do that, you will not be prevented. You will not be told, oh, because you're not a STEM kid, you're not going to be allowed to. No, you can. Okay. So any particular course, assuming you have the right prerequisites for it, it's like any other course for that matter, you'll be allowed to take it. It's not exclusive to only do. The exclusivity is strictly in the distinction that if you wanted that distinction to be a STEM kid, a STEM graduate, then you'd have to fulfill all of that, those requirements. It's a little bit more like the college model. You know, you go to college and you want to graduate, say, in business,
right.
They don't stop you from taking classes somewhere else. Neither do they stop anybody else from taking classes of business. But if you wanted to have the distinction of being a graduate in business, you'd have to take all the requirements of business, and that's what we're trying to do. I think STEM is a well, I don't have to be repeating this. I'm sure you hear it all the time. It's the way to go for the future. I think all of our children should be well educated in STEM. And I would say even STEAM, not just STEM, include the arts as well.
Right. STEM stands for science, technology,
engineering and math.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. I've got the STEM down here on my handwritten notes. I also have the Latin Lyceum. Is that still a active?
It is. 2 days ago, I went and visited with the Parents Association. They had an event, and I was very delighted. I met quite a few parents. I think an incredibly dedicated bunch of people who continue to encourage their kids to excel and work really hard and work more. It's amazing how these children do what they do with all the things they're involved with. It's absolutely amazing. Very proud of them, really proud of them, the hard work they do. I think we've got to find ways to. It's an incredible school. We've got to find a way how to let the word out. It's a school that is probably very well kept secret in Lowell. It's a good school. It's a good program. It's a good curriculum. Again, it's not really any kid can apply to it. Mm-hmm. They have to work hard for it, and I think we need to figure out a way how to support them better, to support them, get them. I understand they are not working at full capacity yet. Their capacity that was designed, but we're doing everything possible to figure out how to help them out.
Okay.
And work. They're good kids. Yeah.
The Latin Lyceum, as I remember it when I was teaching there, was fairly exclusive.
Well, I mean, it's the word exclusive is very relative. What do you mean by exclusive? If it's exclusive in the sense that I don't look at it as exclusive, because if any student would like to apply to it and work hard and get involved, mm-hmm. and they earn their place, they pass the test and get admitted, they're not denied. If they pass the test, they're not denied the admission. Right. They don't have an admission where they say the top 50 only are accepted. Mm-hmm. If they do that, then that's exclusive, because you could have 150 students are ready to tackle that curriculum, but only 50 are accepted. That would be exclusive. Right. But we don't do that. We just say, you take a test, because we don't want you to go to a program that you're guaranteed to fail either. Right. We're not helping the students by doing that. So you show your skills, and as long as you're able to tackle that rigor, then hey, welcome aboard. Okay. So I think the word exclusivity is sometimes misunderstood and misused.
Okay, I have a question on cursive writing. Is it really gone, or portions of it taught, or I don't know. I can't imagine a world without cursive writing.
I know they do writing, that's for sure. Yeah. I'm not really. I have to really look at the details and what each school is doing. But when I go visit the schools, no, writing is not dropped. They still do writing. They still do writing in there.
I was wondering how they would do their signature if they didn't take cursive writing.
They still do writing. I look at this little, first graders, second graders. Yesterday I was in schools and they're writing. I walked into a class where it was an ELL class where every child was sitting down and writing a little essay about where they're from, their ancestors are from, and all of that was written by hand, and it wasn't typing or anything. It was just writing by hand and correcting, and it's still writing.
I don't know. I find parents scared of that point more than anything else in my talking to them over the course of the month when we talk. That they're more worried about cursive writing than they are about almost anything else.
Worried that they lost it, or worried to lose it?
No,
I think the kids are still writing.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this month's.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Dialogue, and I'll be looking forward to next month.
Thank you.
Okay.
Same here.